Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Mad Mouth, and I am pleased to be joined by a very, very good crew today. And we have George Eichorn. Welcome to the broadcast.
Good to be here, Scott. Thanks for having me.
And I have Mel Farr Jr. as well. Welcome back.
Hello, everybody.
And we have Ralph Williams.
Hey, how you doing? Hello.
And Steve Balestrieri.
Always a pleasure.
And last but not least, Mr. Concrete Dump, Eric Katz. Welcome back, Eric.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we obviously tonight's subject is going to be Jim Harbaugh's Eventful 2022. So for a lot of you out there that are following it all, this is what we're going to discuss tonight. And first of all, we all know that Jim Harbaugh was on the hot seat in 2021. He took a pay cut. Losing to Michigan State and Ohio State didn't help matters any either. So, let's take it from there. Okay, George, you know it better than I do. So go ahead and talk about what took place over there.
Well, if we were sitting here a year ago today, not a single one of us would have predicted what happened to the University of Michigan football team. They came out of nowhere, as did Michigan State, I might add. And so the fans, obviously the Michigan True Blue fans, were obviously very pleased. That being said, as we all know, that's the first Big Ten title he's won in all his years at Michigan. And the first appearance, obviously, in the playoffs, and first appearance in the Big Ten championship game as well. So that being said, I mean, he has to try to do it again, all over again. I mean, the fans that are true blue obviously are sticking with him, but the fans that are more on the fence, not so much. He's 61-24 at U of M, and the pasting that he gave Ohio State and Iowa at the end of last season was a big thing for Michigan fans. But I'm just saying Harbaugh still, in a lot of people's minds, is still not totally proven that he is what he is, okay? I mean, those great years that he had in San Diego State and not so good at Stanford, but then, of course, with the 49ers in the NFL. So is he on the spotlight? Well, no, he signed the extension, so he's got job security. There's no question about that. But like I said, in the eyes of a lot of the fans that are Michigan fans, there's still a lot to be said. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, Mel, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think they had a great year. I mean, they beat Ohio State, right? That's a great year. I mean, that's something they hadn't done in a very, very long time. Now, it takes a while to build a program, and they have to be patient with them. Now, understand, there's 100 and some odd Division I schools. Not every school is going to make it to the playoffs. Sometimes you just have to have realistic goals. I know Michigan is a big brand, and they have a lot of money behind them, and they have large expectations. But in reality, that's a tough job. The Michigan job is a tough job because of the educational aspect of it. I mean, Michigan is a good school. It's a great school. And I remember back when I was in school, the big thing was to get to the Rose Bowl, win the Pac-10 at that particular time, and go to the Rose Bowl. And you didn't have the constant turnover of coaches like you have now. I mean, some coaches might not make it a year. They might not make, or they'll just make it a year, and the fan base is upset because their expectations are too high. And I think some of these universities have to lower their expectations, become more realistic about their expectations. We were talking about Wisconsin before the broadcast. It's a great job. It's a great job. They got a great athletic department, great facilities, but it's a tough job. That's not a school that's going to compete for national championships year in and year out. Now, there may be a few years where they will compete for a national championship. Alabama, obviously, is a great job, but that's one of those schools where they're expected to compete, and they have all the resources in which to be able to do that. They have the money, they have the facilities, and then they have the talent pool in which to draw from. Not just there in Alabama, but adjacent in Georgia, and not too far, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana. So it's a lot easier in a 6-mile radius, 6-mile drive for them to get talent. Well, Michigan doesn't have that same luxury. And there's good talent in the state of Michigan, don't get me wrong. There's good talent in the state of Ohio, a little bit in Illinois. But once you get outside of there, it gets a little bit scarce as far as being able to get talent. And now, the allure of playing at one of those kind of schools is not what it used to be because, of television. If you want to have an opportunity to play on television, all teams play on television now. So if I'm a young kid and I live in the South, why would I want to head north and play in the snow and play in cold weather? So, but I think they did a good job. I like Jim Harbaugh. I've liked what he's done. He's one of those kind of guys you either hate him or you love him. And I'm a Harbaugh guy, a Jim Harbaugh guy. I've liked him when followed him from when he was at San Diego, and then I think he did a great job over there at Stanford. Did a great job with the 49ers, got him to the Super Bowl. And I think if they just give him some time, I believe he'll do a good job here at Michigan. He's still a couple pieces away. They just have to build on what they did last year. Obviously Ohio State is a gold standard in the Big Ten, and they're getting closer. They're a lot closer than they've been. It just takes time to build a program, get the kind of players that you want in there, run your system, and go out there and be effective and win.
All right, Ralph.
Yeah, I agree with Mel. But Rome wasn't built in a day, so you can't really build a football program, like Mel said, as fast. But Jim Harbaugh's a name, and a lot of players that go there, a lot of players that go to the NFL. You see that there's always a quality athletes from Michigan in the NFL, and they're playing on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Taco Charlton. We have Devin Bush. And so, in the past, we've had Jeremy Tooman. We've had some guys from Michigan that have played on our team that have been some good athletes. Michigan is a prominent program. Wisconsin, Paul Christ. He came from Pitt. He was head coach at Pitt for a little while, and everybody questioned whether or not he'd be able to build that program. He's done well. He's good at working with the quarterback, which is a very good thing for him. The Big Ten is a tough conference as well. You have Penn State, you have Michigan, you have prominent programs that have been around a long time that have had a lot of success. And, that's what Michigan wants. They want success. Pitt played Michigan State this year in the Peach Bowl, and we haven't been to the Peach Bowl since 1977. I watched a game that we were there. Rick Tricano was our starting quarterback before Dan Marino. So what I'm saying is that it does take a long time to build a program, and Rome wasn't built in a day. So, you can't really build a program that much and to expect a lot. And I understand Jim Harbaugh's a name, and I understand Michigan was paying him a lot of money and expected a lot. And again, Michigan's a prominent program, and they're going to expect a lot. So, unlike, at Pitt, if we get to a bowl game, everybody's happy. That's the expectation at Pitt. Now that we're at that we reached the Peach Bowl this year, they're going to expect more. And they just re-signed Pat Narduzzi, who was a defensive coordinator for Michigan State under Mark D'Antonio for a while. And he runs his defense, Narduzzi runs the same defense. So there's good players, good coaches have come out of the Big Ten. And Harbaugh's had success everywhere he's been, more or less. Won a Super Bowl in the NFL, and at Stanford, I liked him when he was at Stanford, and then when he played football, the Hail Mary in the 1995 AFC Championship game, where he tried to get the Colts to the Super Bowl. He has the fire in his eyes as a coach. He was a fiery player. And also my co-host on my TV show, Sports Corner, Smoking Jim Frazier, he likes Michigan. He likes Jim Harbaugh. So, I have nothing but good things to say about Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan program.
Steve?
Yeah, and as you and I were talking earlier today offline, I'm a Harbaugh fan. I got to meet him. I got to speak with him for a little bit, and I've always admired him first as a player and as a coach, but he's had a tough go of it. He was, taking a pay cut for a reason. And, when you are the head coach at Michigan, you're expected to beat Ohio State. I mean, that's the bottom line. And if you don't do that for several years, you're going to be under the gun. But, that he turned it around last year, and, it's a great football program. I mean, every year you see guys from Michigan going all through the draft, from early rounds right through the end. And this year should be no exception. I think, one of their players is either going to go one or two. So, I mean, it's a great football program. They finally put it together with Harbaugh last year. And, now we'll see where they go in the future. But, looking back, I mean, it's tough. And like Mel said, a lot of schools have to temper their expectations. I don't think Michigan's going to temper theirs. That's too big of a program. They're going to want to win every year, and they should compete every year.
Eric?
Well, I think Harbaugh, has done a fantastic job. You have to keep in mind, though, that the schools he came from, including when he went to the NFL, the expectations were relatively low, because the Niners were, when prior to Harbaugh arriving, the Niners hadn't been to the playoffs in a really long time, and then he got them to the Super Bowl. Stanford was, Stanford was down the dump, and same with San Diego State. But you have to keep in mind, though, Michigan was just coming off an era of Brady Hoke where they were going in the wrong direction, where things were really starting to go downhill there. But the fact that he was able to kind of avoid them bottoming out and actually getting them to the Citrus Bowl and having a 10-win season is just incredible in and of itself. I've always liked Harbaugh. I think, schools like legendary schools, like I know Nebraska's the worst at this, because Nebraska has never, since Tommy Frazier left, they've never had the product to compete for a national championship. But the fans like to amp up the heat and say, you must compete for a national championship. That's what cost Bo Pelini his job, despite having all the success he had there. But, at Michigan, it's a legendary program. I mean, I think the gleam, as we call it, for playing on TV, that's kind of left every single program in the country, because now teams in the MAC and Conference USA and other programs, they play on TV all the time. But this is like, at this point, we have access to every single football game in the world with thanks to the on-demand era on TV. But I think Harbaugh has done a great job there. I mean, will he have to build on last year? Absolutely, and he'll continue to build. I mean, yeah, he has to do it with new coordinators, but that's just the nature of the coaching business. He's going to have to build on it, and the guy's been producing first round draft picks every single season. That never happened under Brady Hoke.
Yeah, I'll just add that before we go on, and the fact that obviously we know Aiden Hutchinson's either going to go first or second and draft either to Jacksonville or Detroit, and a guy we should not forget about is Rich Rodriguez too. So we talk about Brady Hoke or Rich Rodriguez. I mean, didn't do the program any favors either. So
he bottomed out the program.
Yeah, he did, and then Brady Hoke.
I don't think Rich Rodriguez got a fair opportunity. I think he's a good coach, and I think it would. But he just changed the system. That's not Michigan football. I mean, that's what you that's what you do at one of those fringe programs, Northwestern or something like that.
Right.
That little gimmick offense. Michigan was known for putting quarterbacks in the NFL and offensive linemen in the NFL.
Right.
And they didn't have the mauling offensive linemen because they weren't running the football, and then they didn't have the big quarterback because they had shoe tops or whatever his name was. A little guy that could run. The guy that didn't tie his shoes playing quarterback. He was exciting, must see TV, but that just wasn't Michigan football.
Denard Robinson.
Yep, Denard Robinson.
Deerfield Beach product, by the way. There you go.
I think because their biggest mistake, and this was Hoke kind of unfortunately got the brunt of it, was Rich Rodriguez decided to get rid of the pro style that they had run since Bo Schembechler, if I'm pronouncing his name right. Am I pronouncing his name right?
Oh, Schembechler, right.
Yeah.
Schembechler, yeah.
Because Bo, that they had been running pro style for the longest time. They would have the running backs, guys like greats like Mike Hart, and they would have that. Problem was he wanted to go spread option, which a Big Ten football team will never be a spread option team. It's only this year that we've seen the Big Ten throw it more than they ever have before.
I mean, he was ahead of his time. Rich Rodriguez was ahead of his time. I mean, that stuff at West Virginia was great. It was ahead of his time. The spread offense like that, he was ahead of his time. The Big Ten just wasn't ready for it at that particular time. Nobody was really doing that. Yeah, now everybody's doing that. Mm-hmm. But at that time, nobody was doing it.
And also, it didn't help though that Rich also, he kind of made the mistake that Belichick made when Belichick first became an NFL head coach, was to monitor the distractions, which that he did a poor job of that at Michigan. And a school like Michigan, there's going to be that. It's just, the nature of the university, boosters, fans, and this is pre-social media, mind you, that, there's boosters, fans, everything like that. He just and he even admits it now in interviews that he did a poor job at that, where, in a school like Michigan, you have to balance the distractions. Like in big time college football, there's going to be distractions, and Michigan is no different to that.
Well, I'll just say one thing before we go on to the next topic. Okay, it's a spring game. Distractions or attention. Jim Harbaugh wasn't shy about bringing Colin Kaepernick in to throw the football either. So, here's a guy who's very loyal, and to bring Colin Kaepernick, throw the ball at halftime, just shows you the type of person he is. He's very loyal to who he is. So as we move on here, we'll talk about the NFL itch. National Signing Day, he was actually interviewing for the Minnesota Vikings job, assuming that he'd get hired. He wasn't. Ended up eating crow. Okay, an offensive coordinator. To me, Josh Gaddis appeared to be a guy who could have been the possible successor, and now he's obviously with the Miami Hurricanes, and Kevin O'Connell got the job. So I don't know if the timing of going to Minnesota for National Signing Day was great, George, but that wasn't a very good look. But we obviously know that Jim Harbaugh obviously goes by the old adage, we all know what assume means, and I'm not going to go into detail. He assumed he had it, and then all of a sudden he didn't. So take it from there, George.
Well, yeah, those things happen, unfortunately. But, the timing wasn't perfect. And, like you guys were saying before, to build a program takes time and energy, and a lot of things have to go right, as we know. And certainly I'm not a fan of the short trigger on the coaches. You mentioned a couple of them that were bad with Rodriguez and Hoke, but I'm not a big fan about that, especially in college football, because as you said earlier, Mel, I mean, there's so many teams out there. Not everybody's going to win it all, and guys do need to have time, but it just didn't work out for them. So.
Where do you want to go with it, Mel? Obviously, Jim Harbaugh wasn't the coach of the Minnesota Vikings. The Lions would have to have seen him twice. I'm sure they're glad that only time they have to see him is when he's in Ann Arbor. But, I think that would have been interesting to see what happened in Minnesota. I'm kind of glad he ended up with the Wolverines instead. But, the flirtation, to want to try to get another Super Bowl ring was certainly tempting, wasn't it, Mel?
Yeah, I think that to try to get a Super Bowl ring. He made the Super Bowl, but they didn't win it. I think that's another problem that the fan base has. I think that they feel he has one foot in, the other foot out. He's not all the way in, not all the way committed to Michigan. That he's still looking for an NFL job, and anytime that time of year comes around in the NFL, his name is always brought up. And I think that's because NFL teams have a lot of respect for Jim Harbaugh and what he was able to do in San Francisco. And I still think that he'll probably go back to the NFL. I think he'll give it another shot and try to chase the Super Bowl. What happened in San Francisco, I don't know exactly what happened, but that was a great situation for the fans there, and it was a great situation for Jim Harbaugh, and they could have continued to build on that. For them to let him get out of there is, shame on them. I mean, I think they feel they landed on their feet by getting Kyle Shanahan. So I guess all's well that ends well. But yeah, I think that's one of the problems that the fan base has with him. I think that certain fringe fan base that he's kind of flirting with the NFL. He's not 100% committed. They don't feel he's 100% committed to the Michigan program.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it's obviously evidence that he ended up saving face by going back to the Wolverines, and he's thankful that Ward Manuel even let him go back when obviously Josh Gaddis, I think, was a favorite to get that job. And, Josh Gaddis landed with the University of Miami, but he did make assurances to Ward Manuel that he wouldn't seek another NFL job. Steve Balestrieri, the question is, do you believe him?
Like Tom Brady said, he's retiring.
Yeah, right.
I mean, to save face. I mean, why?
Again, when we heard all the rumors about, him going back to the NFL, we believed he was going to get the job, and it was a bad look because of the timing that was involved. National Signing Day and all that, and I think Mel hit the nail on the head right there when he's talking about, a lot of people up in the Michigan area, the media, they question his commitment. And I think it's a legitimate concern. I mean, because he's still flirting with the NFL. I think he still wants to go back. And if the situation was a good one and he was inheriting a pretty good football team, I think he would jump at it. So, that's I don't know. I mean, that's a tough question there. I mean, but
yeah, I think it is too, because you don't know what the buyout clause is in his contract. I mean, because if he just signed an extension and he wants to go back to the NFL, they always put buyout clauses. I know here at Pitt, we're having issues with Jeff Capel, our basketball coach. He's not doing real well. And his buyout clause is $15 million. So they got to let him write out his contract, because then they got to eat that buyout clause. Yeah. So that's you have to look at that too. I don't think Michigan alum and whatnot are going to be very pleased to find out that the buyout clause wasn't very high, and then he was able to go to the NFL.
They need to have a problem with whoever drafted that contract.
Right.
I mean, I don't think the buyouts are really a concern of the Wilf family in Minnesota. If you were to hypothetically take the Minnesota job, because the Wilfs are basically made of money, and they'd be more than willing to eat that to get their coach.
So,
well, that all depends on how much it is. I mean, if the buyout cost is $50 million, I don't know. I mean, I don't care how much money.
$15 million.
I don't think
it was $15 million. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
I think because Michigan, I don't think Michigan's a public university, so it's really unknown.
No, it is.
It is. Oh.
Yes.
I think also with Harbaugh, I think deep down he wants to go back to the NFL, because he came up was a missed pass interference call away from winning the Super Bowl. I think that's still eating at him. That there's a reason he's still flirting with the jobs. I mean, as far as him saying, as far as him giving Ward a manual assurances that he's not going back, well, Bobby Petrino did the same thing everywhere he's gone, and then boom, he's rumored the jobs. He says, "Oh, I'm not accepting them," and then an hour or so later he does. Just ask Arthur Blank and the Falcons.
I gotta tell you this. That was a great example, Bobby Petrino. Then again, I mean, geez, you want to talk about the ultimate guy that moves around. I mean, I could think of a lot of them, about Bobby Petrino, college/pro, and then you, of all people, Eric, bring up his name. I guess it is pretty interesting when you talk about waffling and Bobby Petrino. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks, Eric. That was good. So.
Yeah, I remember.
Hey, Scott. I know a name in Florida that they don't like, Nick Saban down in Miami for the Dolphins. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They don't like Nick Saban, man.
No, I know. I'm well aware of it. I live in the area. I don't think they've really ever gotten over it, but I think Nick Saban's issue was he should have signed Drew Brees. And a lot of us people in Detroit know that Nick Saban had to coach Joey Harrington and George Eichorn. Full well, I don't think that Nick Saban went to the Miami Dolphins to coach Joey Harrington. He wanted to
no, not at all.
No,
not at all.
I mean, no. I do remember that when he says, "I'm not I'm not going to be the Alabama coach. What more do you want me to
Yeah,
say?
exactly.
And I think, Saban's biggest problem was he was still coaching like he was in college, and players also, I think, he was starting to slowly lose his grip on the players too.
I think given time, Nick would have been a good professional coach. But I mean, what is a guy supposed to say? I mean, yeah, I'm looking at it. You got a job, and we're talking and we're working out the contract details, and I'll let you guys know later how it goes.
He had to
what are you
deny
supposed? What are you supposed to say?
All right. So what I want to do is this. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a simple question. Okay, and I want a short answer. Okay. I talked about the fact that he made assurances to Ward Manuel that he wouldn't seek another NFL job. I'll start with you, George. Do you agree with it, or do you disagree that he will seek another NFL job?
I can't say he's definitely going to be a man of his word on that. It's just too long range in the future. What Mel said is so true. I mean, he had a taste for that Super Bowl. He lost to his brother of all people, but Baltimore beat San Francisco, and I'm just going to go on a limb and say that, and that's not much of a limb, that, yeah, he does have that thirst, that taste for going back to the NFL. So he gave the university what it needed right now for the assurance, that he's there. But to say and hold the man to that forever, that he's never going to go back or go anywhere else, no, I don't agree with that. I think Jim's going to be shopping around, but it probably not for a few more seasons. I think he's good for several seasons more with U of M in that sense. So
you're saying yes, he will look for another NFL job.
He will.
Okay.
But not real soon.
All right. What about you, Mel?
No, I don't think he'll look for another NFL job. I think they will look for him. I think that's what's been happening. They've sought him out. He hasn't, he's got a good job. I mean, why would he look for another job? He's got a good job, making good money, but he will listen. He'll entertain offers, and he will listen. And if the right offer comes around, he will leave. I believe that. Yes.
All right, Ralph.
I think if he's happy, he'll stay. I think if he's not happy, he'll pursue the NFL job. At least he has that option, and that's a good thing with him. I mean, he's been to the NFL, and as Mel said, they'll come looking for him. And if he's not happy at Michigan anymore, then you know what? Hey, why not? Why not go to the NFL? But I think he'll stay in the interim. I think he'll stay.
Steve?
I think he's going to end up in the NFL within 2-3 years.
Okay. Eric?
I think he'll go back. I mean, he's proven he can do it. He's proven he can win in the NFL. He was a awful call away from winning that Super Bowl. I think that that still gnaws at him. That's why he's still connected to rumors. That's why he pursued the Vikings, because the Vikings were actually a pretty good situation. They were actually better than what he took over in San Francisco. I think that, that still gnaws at him. And I think in order for him to say, I've had a great career, I think he needs that Super Bowl ring.
Okay. So I guess we can all agree that on the interim, and I like the way you pointed that out, George, that he did save face by going back to Michigan. At least he knew he had a job, right, George?
Exactly. Yes. And in his defense, I mean, the Michigan was not moving as quick as he probably wanted on the contract extension, so we're told. So in a way, he covered his tracks a little bit that way as well by coming back and then getting the extension from Ward Manuel. But basically, he's what they need right now. Like we were saying earlier, he's a proven winner, and despite a lot of bowl losses and despite a lot of losses to MSU and to OSU, he's better than they've had.
Yeah, anybody else probably would have been fired, to be honest with you. It wasn't Jim Harbaugh. He would have been fired a while ago.
I don't think I think because, I mean, in Michigan's case, though, who else is going to be able to do that job as well as Jim Harbaugh has been able to do? Because nobody before him had been able to do the job well. Brady Hoke couldn't do it. I think Rich Rodriguez definitely couldn't do it. Although, I mean, granted, they had a bit of a short leash, which fair shake or unfair shake, they couldn't do the job. And then obviously Lloyd Carr toward the end was starting to decline a little bit.
Yeah, you're right about that, Eric. I have to agree with you. Who's going to be able to step in that situation? He's got the pedigree. He was a former Michigan player. He was a successful quarterback. He had a very good career in the NFL, especially with Indianapolis. And no, I agree with you. I mean, you can't just snap your fingers and say, "Oh yeah, bring in this guy, bring in that guy." I mean, all the right pieces are there. His dad has never left the university. His dad has always been living in Ann Arbor with his mom, Jim's mom and dad, and taking an active part in the football team. And so I agree with you. It would be very hard to bring somebody in there like with those credentials.
It's like with for example, Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern. I mean, Northwestern, it's an incredibly hard job. You have to deal with University of Illinois, and then also you have to deal with their high academic standards. Not easy to get in. But, again, with what Pat Fitzgerald has been able to do for that program, who else would have been able to do what Pat Fitzgerald has done? Nobody was able to do it before except for maybe Gary Barnett for that stretch run. But other than that, no one else is going to do the job that Harbaugh has been able to do at Michigan. I don't think anybody else could have.
All right, Steve, what do you think? Do you think he saved face by going back to the Michigan Wolverines, knowing he had all that controversy surrounding himself?
Yeah, I think so. I think he saved face there. I mean, that in the end, it was the right thing to do. I mean, he made great strides with the program last year. Now expectations are going to be high again. And so, yeah, I think it was the right move to go back.
What about you, Ralph?
I think so, too. I believe that's the case. Look at what happened in Nebraska when Tom Osborne retired, and then Frank Solich got fired by Steve Peterson, who was once our athletic director, and not once but twice. Then when he came back the second time, he fired Dave Wannstedt. Wannstedt would have stayed. He would have been there at Pitt here as long as Joe Paterno. So what I'm saying is that you need stability at the coaching position. And if you keep Harbaugh here, that's some stability to a guy who is as it was mentioned here that his family's still in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He has roots there. So it would be perfect for him. And who knows, he might stay there another 10 years. You don't know. I mean, he might be like a Joe Paterno or whatever and stay there forever until he retires, and retires when he wants to.
The only thing I'm going to add to this whole thing is when Les Miles had the chance to get it on 2 occasions, he should have taken it when he was winning. He obviously won at LSU, and
right.
Les Miles to me would be the only guy prior to Harbaugh who should have taken that job.
It's not a better job than the LSU job.
No, that's true. But you know what? We see what's happened to Les Miles since. If you don't constantly win there,
he's at Kansas now.
Not anymore.
Right.
Oh, he's not at Kansas no more?
We won't
Les
say
Miles
why.
is worthless, really. I mean, went to Kansas. What has he done since he left LSU? Nothing. Really.
Nothing. Right.
Right. So
Kansas, who's done anything at Kansas?
Well, that's true. Although I will say
Charlie Weiss didn't do anything there either.
Mark Mangino won that team in Orange Bowl.
Yeah, but you know what?
Okay, there you go.
But I do want to add one thing now that we're talking about Kansas. Hang on, okay? Lance Leipold, the guy from the University of Wisconsin at Whitewater, will do a good job over at Kansas. I will take that to the bank. But getting back to Les Miles for just a moment, okay? I think when the opportunity was there, the obviously being a Bo Schembechler guy, and I've got it down here in Miami. Think about it, okay? Mario Cristobal left a great job at Oregon, and now he's with the University of Miami. And I like in that situation between Les Miles, leaving LSU to go to Michigan, and obviously being a pupil of Bo Schembechler, the dynamics were there. I think it could have looked
Miami's
good.
a better job than the University of Oregon.
What's that?
Miami's a better job than the University of Oregon.
Yeah, but you know what, though, Mel? I will tell you this, though. And Howard Schnellenberger always wanted an on-campus facility. At least Mario Cristobal had one in Oregon. Now, obviously, what you have. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it as well.
No, but you're right, Scott. You're right, because Les Miles was the other big name, right? That was constantly being mentioned. You're right, by the Detroit media,
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know if he was, talked to at all. There were rumors that he was either before the Rich Rod or the Hulk hiring.
He was.
But, yeah. I mean, he was the other name. You're right. That big name that
he was the name that they wanted. He was the name that Michigan wanted.
Right.
And everybody and the other two, they kind of settled. They settled for those.
Yeah.
They settled for those guys. But that's who they wanted.
Yeah, no, and that's why I brought Les up. I think we talk about all the guys who wouldn't do it, and I hope Jim Harbaugh stays there forever.
Stephen Ross couldn't write a big enough check.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing with Cristobal though. Cristobal, he's a University of Miami alum. He won two national championships over there. Miami is a better job, better talent. Oregon, he had a nice situation there. Oregon,
great facilities. Yeah, we know they got great facilities. They got Nike. They got plenty of money. But Miami is fertile recruiting ground. Florida, the state of Florida is very fertile recruiting ground. The state of Georgia, Alabama, you can get anybody to go to Miami.
Miami's a great situation because
Miami's a private school. So they got different rules.
Yep.
I was at the Miami Hurricane spring game on Saturday over at DRV Pink Stadium, formerly the Lockhart Stadium site, and I happened to have a chance to go to that game. I can tell you the energy level with Mario Cristobal, what he commands, I think he's going to do great with that job. But getting back to what I initially mentioned, Les Miles was the name George and I know because we lived it as the name being bannered around. And I think Jim Harbaugh, to me, is the best thing that's happened to that. Again, alluding back to what I mentioned earlier, Brady Hoke and Rich Rodriguez. So in the end, I hope Harbaugh stays there. Would I be surprised if he ever went back to the NFL? No, but again, like Mel says, it's got to be the right job to do it. But it will be a while before he does. So I think that, I think he'll hold true to his word with Ward Manuel. He won't look for a job where nobody will come. And you also have to take into consideration his age, though. A lot of NFL teams are looking for younger guys now. So will Harbaugh be looked at, or will they bring on some of these young guys? Those are things we'll probably address down the road. So, it's interesting. I do believe
he's 58 already, Scott. Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. I do believe he did save face. He was fortunate he got a job, although I was curious to see if he didn't. I think Josh Gaddis would have done a really good job for the Wolverines. One other thing I want to get to here before we call it a night, and just so you know, everybody, this is Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. This show can be heard on iHeartRadio or seen on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. And you can also find us at www.southfloridatribune.com. You can find the broadcast there as well. Tonight, I'm joined by George Eichorn, my longtime colleague forever. Okay, we started the Sports Exchange way back when. I've been in this business since I was obviously 17 years old. I don't want to get into the age card.
You might have been in diapers when we first. No,
I was in diapers in that industry probably. And I know that, not to get political on the show, but the guy running Iran was the Ayatollah Khomeini. That's how far we go back.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I remember.
Oh, yeah.
Al Kaline was still an active player.
Al Kaline.
Well, that's true.
I'm glad you brought it up. I just found out Miguel is 3 for 3. He's one hit away, Scott, from hitting 3,000 hits tonight against the Yankees.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
There you go.
Love Miggy. I mean, I remember when I was at a White Sox game. It was bases loaded, and I'm like, Miguel Cabrera's up. I'm like, oh, boy. And then he hits an RBI single. I'm like, it's in typical fashion.
He's one of the greatest hitters ever.
Just wanted to give you that update. Thanks.
Well, no, we appreciate that. We know that Miguel Cabrera is getting close to that milestone. But get back to my initial point. It is interesting, though, that when you put it all in perspective, and again, I'm going to go out on a limb that I think Lance Sleepole is going to do a great job at University of Kansas. Hold me to that. I don't care. He's a proven winner. He won over at Buffalo, a program that obviously wasn't doing very well. And we all know what he did at University of Wisconsin Whitewater. Eric Katz, I don't know. He's right down the road over in Madison. So let's go on to the final topic of the night. I know that Paul Feinbaum is Harbaugh's biggest critic, and we know that when this whole thing blew up, Paul Feinbaum didn't think twice about crucifying Harbaugh. But I guess I'm going to lead off with you, Steve Balestrieri. Do you think that Harbaugh recovers from the offseason drama and you have to wonder if it affected recruiting, because we do know that he got the Ohio State gorilla off his back, riding the wave and the sacks of Aiden Hutchinson. And of course, he had a great running attack and good passing as well. But the reality is does he recover from this, Steve?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think, now that he's signed his extension, he's going to jump right back in, being committed to his program. I do think it might have affected his recruiting, though, a little bit, because there was rumors since his bowl game, that he was going to be a target for the NFL. So, if you're a recruit and, Michigan's one of the schools that's coming to you, you have to ask yourself, is the head coach going to be there? And for a lot of those kids, I'm sure that was a legitimate question. It was a very legitimate question up until, they made the decision that he wasn't going to get hired back in the NFL. So, yeah, I think it did affect his recruiting this year. But, yeah, I think he recovers. I think their program is going to be just fine.
What about you, Eric?
I think this year, yeah. I mean, but, we live in a time where if a head coach's name is rumored for any other job, it's going to affect recruiting. That's just the nature of the world we live in now, especially with the rise of social media. But I think Harbaugh recovers from this. Michigan's a big enough school, it's a big enough brand where he'll be able to kind of step right in and get the ship moving again. I think this year it affected it, sure. But, to be honest, whenever a head coach is rumored for any job, it's going to affect recruiting. That's just how it is. But I think, Harbaugh will get back down to it. He's got his extension. He has his money. Now it's time to get ready and hope time to get ready to beat Ohio State, because this year it's going to be rough. They do have him at the shoe.
Okay, Ralph?
I agree with Eric on this and Steve. Some of their what they said. I believe he got the Ohio State monkey off his back. The fact that he couldn't beat Ohio State, and that's why Michigan State was in the Peach Bowl, because he beat Michigan State too. So, you think about that. Those are two key wins for him, and to get him back with the alum and with the university and get people back into Michigan football again and push that all aside, I think Jim Harbaugh will be good as a coach, and I think he's going to stay for a few years.
Mel?
They lost to Michigan State this year, didn't they?
Yeah,
yes.
They did.
Game.
Anytime, obviously, that other schools will use that against the University of Michigan. Hey, that coach may not be there your entire 4 or 5 years. I will be here. I'm not looking to go to the NFL. No NFL teams are looking at me to coach one of their teams. So he's going to have to deal with that every year until he gets to be, because Nick Saban had to deal with the same thing down here in the SEC. For a while, his name was always coming up when those jobs were mentioned, and now we know it's 60 some odd years old, almost 70 years old. He's not going anywhere. He's very serious about staying in Alabama because he realized he has a great job. Jim, I think Harbaugh is a good recruiter. Michigan, they're able to recruit highly talented individuals. They can kind of work the list from the top down. They can go to states and kind of get, pick one of the top 10 players in a position group that they need, and they can go after that particular player and have the potential to sign them. They have that luxury where they can recruit nationwide. So, it may have hurt a little bit. They may have lost 1 or 2 prospects, but I think from everything that I read, I don't think that they lost any big time prospects. But the other thing is, if they do, they can always go to the transfer portal, because there's more players in the transfer portal than there are scholarships available.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought the transfer portal up. And I will say, before I have George comment on it, Bo Schembechler did a really good job recruiting in Florida. And you know full well that Jim Harbaugh loves the state of Florida. I know that he's worked them out over at the IMG Academy, and he comes to South Florida an awful lot as well. So the Wolverines do recruit well, especially in Southern Florida as well. So go ahead, George. Take it from there.
Well, no, I think you guys have hit it right on the spot. All surveys, if you will, the polls on the recruiting class, has Michigan right behind Ohio State in the Big Ten, and among the top 10 or top 15, at least, let's say, in the country. And you're right, Mel. I mean, there might have been one or two kids that changed their mind. Nobody pops into my mind right now, but I think that it was just a temporary thing. And Jim is a good recruiter. He works hard. His associate coaches work hard at recruiting. But again, it's a tough battle out there. And you said it earlier, Mel. I mean, the kid that's down south, the kid that would like to play in the warmer weather or work out in a warmer climate than, you know, the crappy weather in Michigan and Wisconsin and states like that. I mean, the Big Ten and Michigan and those kind of teams, they're going to try and their hardest, but they're not going to get a lot of those premier athletes that want to stay down south or go to USC or Southern Cal and out in California, Arizona, wherever. So it's a tough battle. I mean, recruiting is tough, and it takes its toll on the coaching staff. We all know that. I mean, it's a tough job. But to answer your question, no, Scott, I think that it was maybe a temporary thing. You might have lost a couple of kids, but the bounce back will be there. It's just a tough job for schools like Michigan to get the premier kind of guys always.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Jim Harbaugh, I think we could probably all agree on it, is I think that with the Minnesota situation playing out, that he ate humble pie is what he did. He really did.
Yes.
And I think that anytime you eat humble pie like
Oh,
he
yeah.
did, then you appreciate where you're at. And I'm not so sure he's going to be going anywhere right away. I think you can't buy happiness, you know, coaching your alma mater. And as long as he can keep racking up wins, and again, the key here is he beat Ohio State at least once. So I loved it when he beat Ohio State that Paul Feinbaum had to eat crow himself, and he put his foot in his mouth. And I loved all the way he was kissing up to Harbaugh that he finally had to leave him alone. And, you know, and I will say, leave him alone, Paul.
Alone.
Okay, because he did beat Ohio State. And he was riding them for, you know, he was singing the praises. So I'm not here to please Paul Feinbaum. Frankly, don't care. We know he has an SEC bias anyways. But Jim Harbaugh simply ate humble pie. I think he'll appreciate the maize and blue a lot more. But, yeah, well, you know, I guess would he consider coaching in the NFL? I think so, but I don't know. For some crazy reason or another, the way the NFL is looking to bring these young guys in here to trying to duplicate these Sean McVays and the Sean McDermotts and all these other young guys, I'm not so sure that, you know, they're looking to bring anybody much older, but you never know depending on the situation. I thought if there was a job for him to have had, because I think he knew the brash with the Vikings, it would have been that. But I'm glad that Michigan has Harbaugh. And yes, folks, I am wearing my Go Blue colors as well. I definitely go ahead and spend a little bit of money when I go back home to Metro Detroit. So all in all, I think the bottom line is this. Okay, Jim Harbaugh has had an eventful 2022. And I can tell you right now, we've had an eventful broadcast. I've enjoyed every one of you guys talking about a very important subject. It's been a lot of fun. And, you know, because I don't think we missed anything. If we did, speak up. Anything we missed, this is your time.
Not that I'm aware of.
What about you, Steve?
Nope.
Eric?
Nah, I think we hit it right on the head. You know, Harbaugh, you know, who else is going to do the job that Harbaugh's done? I can guarantee, and I'll make a guarantee right now on this show. Yeah, I'm going to be a little brashy right now. I can guarantee you nobody else will be able to take Michigan to the college football playoff but Jim Harbaugh.
Interesting. Okay, Mel?
That's that youthful enthusiasm for you. No, I don't think we missed anything.
And George, since you're back in Metro Detroit, we're going to leave you with the last word.
The only thing we missed was you remember when Jim was first hired, he had the Splash. It was called the Splash, you know, where he would rent an auditorium and announce his recruits. He would take his kids to Rome, Italy, or to Africa on these pilgrimages. I'm sorry, these recruiting trips,
right?
Whatever you want to call them. So Jim has toned down a bit, and that's an important point because he doesn't need that kind of sizzle like he started with this first several years in Ann Arbor. He has toned down that act, and I think that's a sign of more maturity at the campus and more maturity and in control, along with his assistant coaches, that he necessarily doesn't have to do that. What they're doing
that
this
has more
year,
to do
by
with
the way,
COVID.
guys, is they're touring the state of Michigan. How
I
about
think that
that,
had more to
Scott?
do with. I think
Just
that
like
had more to
Scott
do with
and I have
COVID.
gone all around the state. He's taking the boys around the state.
I think to Mel's point, George, COVID had something to say with that, so that's why they're not going all the way to Europe.
I think that was a great thing that he was doing.
Right.
It was.
I understand why he was doing it down in Florida.
Yeah.
He was doing that to really kind of piss off some of the folks down in the SEC, and I don't mind that. That's fine. But the stuff, going to Rome and different things of that nature, I think that was good. I think that's a great experience for a lot of these kids that, some of them may never get that opportunity to do that. I think that was awesome, and that's another selling point for Michigan. Hey, this is what you can expect. They're not going to do this down in Alabama, or they're not going to do this in Georgia. All they're going to do is work you out in that hot heat and try to win a national championship. But we're going to give you a well-rounded, not only college education but also experience as well. I mean, I thought that was great. That was great.
Also, Mel, you have to look at this too. That's a character builder. There's not a lot of coaches that would do anything like that. That's a character builder. It's a team thing. Yes, right. Exactly. Yeah, if you're doing something like that, that's yeah.
I think Harbaugh did a great job with those because, especially the trips to Europe and Africa, he wanted to expose the athletes he gets from wherever he gets them. I can guarantee you they're not all traveling to Europe and Africa. He wants to kind of expose them to the world, showing that there's more to life than just football.
Absolutely. I thought that was outstanding. I hope he continues to do it.
I can't name another coach who I can't name another coach who would have done that.
Well, I think the one name that we should bring up is Paul Hackett, the guy that hired him in the first place. So I know Paul George before Ward Manuel came on, and obviously he went and worked to San Francisco, worked diligently to get Harbaugh to go there. But yeah, I think that was definitely masterful that he was able to take his kids overseas. Listen, I haven't even been across the big pond, and Harbaugh takes these kids. I don't know if we'll ever see the big pond. But no, that was a genius there. And again, I have nothing but the utmost respect for Harbaugh. I've met the guy a couple of times covering bowl games for the Wolverines, and I'm glad that he was able to win that Big Ten championship and at least get to the college football playoffs. So he got rid of a lot of demons there. So Meanwhile, with that said, what an outstanding broadcast we've had. So Ralph Williams, I'm going to let you lead it off and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Ralph Williams 737@gmail.com, and I have a Facebook page, Ralph Williams, and I have a Facebook page, Sports Corner, The Way I See It, and Wrestle Talk. Facebook page as well.
All right, Steve Balestrieri.
Yeah, Twitter, Steve B7SFG, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn @Steve Balestrieri. I write for PatsFans.com. I'm also a national security columnist for 1945.com. I write about the military and politics and intelligence.
All right, Mr. Concrete Dump, a.k.a. my other co-host on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Tell you what, Eric, you're phenomenal there, and you're also phenomenal tonight. I call you my young whippersnapper because I tell you what, he's Mr. Opinion number 2, so let everybody know they get a hold of you.
Yes, thank you, Scott. You can follow me on Twitter @SportsTeamNews. I also write for BellyUpSports.com, and I cover Wisconsin Badgers football.
Mel?
All the social media sites at Mel Farr Jr. And follow what we have going on here in Georgia and also up in Michigan at melfarr.org.
And last but not least, George Eichorn.
Yeah, you can get a copy of my book. I wrote the book on Detroit sports broadcasting history. And Scott Morgenroth, you helped me out with that book tremendously. Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. You can get a hold of me at georgeeichorn@gmail.com. And I'm also on Twitter at SNG Sports 99. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Yeah, I am in George's book. That's probably why I helped you a little bit.
Yeah.
And, of course, my name is Scott Morgenroth, Motor City Madmouth. I am the CEO of the South Florida Tribune. Want to get a hold of us? First of all, to listen to the broadcast, go to iHeartRadio and look for Inside the Pigskin or 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, Sports Exchange, whatever we're doing. And you could subscribe, no cost to do that, to hear the audio. Or if you want to see us, South Florida Tribune YouTube channel, go ahead and click the subscribe button, get the notifications when we're on, then we go from there. So You can go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can find me on Twitter at Tribune South, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well. So, meanwhile, guys, great subject, great time, and I'm glad we had a chance to talk about the Maize and Blue and Jim Harbaugh. I know they just recently completed their spring game, and I think things are going to be fine in Ann Arbor. I think Jim Harbaugh obviously ate humble pie, and I hope that the Wolverines can go out there and continue to build on what they're doing. Maybe it's a little hiccup in this recruiting cycle, but I don't see that going forward. So meanwhile, on behalf of George Eichorn, Mel Farr Jr., Ralph Williams, Steve Balestrieri, Eric Katz, my name is Scott Morgan, Roth Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. Until the next time, good night, everybody.
Good night.